Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you guys here. And in today's video, we're going to be taking care of something that may not sound like a huge problem, but is a pretty big problem to me. So first thing I'm going to do, pull Anisha's car out so I got a little bit more room to work. And then we're going to get cracking on the drift car. We're tentatively aiming to be at Spooky Drift, not this weekend, but the weekend after. So I want to make sure that I fix this issue before we get out there. All right, so to the drift car. One thing that I've been noticing is stock headers just isn't it. Unfortunately, the car is so quiet that while in drift, I'm obviously not looking at my RPMs, and without being able to hear the engine over the tires, sometimes I don't know that my RPMs are dropping until it's too late. That being said, I want to open it up a little bit. I don't want to spend a lot of money, so here's what we're doing. eBay headers, let's go. Surprise, surprise, just like every other E46 YouTuber out there. Now, I'm not necessarily doing this for a performance boost. I really just want to hear the engine while I'm on track, so that way I can more accurately gauge where my revs are and keep them up so I can stay in power. That being said, I think the responsible thing to do would be to start the car up so you guys can hear how it sounds at idle with stock headers and no muffler. I have the stock silencer under the car still, and I think I'll keep it there just so it's not raspy and too loud. But let's go ahead and do that really quick, and then we're gonna jack the car up. We'll jump right into it. It's not necessarily a how-to video. There's plenty of people who have shown that before. I'm just doing it on mine, and while we're in there, my motor mounts are probably needing a replacement. Luckily, I've had these Condor Speed Shop solid mounts sitting around, and since I'm already going to be under there in the first place, I'm pulling the passenger side motor mount off of the block to make clearance for pulling the cats out. Figure I'll do that while I'm under there. So let's see how it sounds when I start the car up right now. See, so not a bad tone when it starts up cold. Right now, it's not too bad. The problem is that all that noise is behind me as a driver. I can't hear anything from the engine bay, especially mid-drift. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing up on stands and start yanking the stock stuff out so we can make it sound a little bit louder for me. Oh, just not my neighbors. All right, so we got the engine support on, X brace off. We have the jack supporting the oil pan with a 2x4, just some added precaution. Now, so at this point, it's time to disconnect the exhaust from the headers and start getting all of the nuts taken off the headers as well. I'm gonna try doing it without pulling the cabin air filter box off, just because the less I have to pull off, the better. So I'm gonna jump into getting all this stuff undone, get that engine mount out of the way, and then we should be well on our way to getting these headers out. All right, so I went ahead and just got the motor mount out of the way. So just that way it's a lot easier to get my hands up inside. So now I'm gonna go up and start loosening the header bolts and try and drop out the headers one at a time. And then once those are out, honestly, it should make things a whole lot easier. So let's get that taken care of so we don't have to worry about it. All right, well, I've run into a little bit of roadblock. I just never really thought about it. I don't have an 11mm deep socket, so I need to run and grab one of those, or Rick said he's gonna swing one by that I can borrow. But I need to get one of those because I don't want to remove all of the nuts and studs for the headers using a hand wrench. Doesn't sound like a good time, especially when I have an electric ratchet. So I'm gonna put this on pause for now, but in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the passenger side motor mount out and put the new one in. So give me a second, I'll get that out, and then we're gonna compare the sizes. All right, so I got the motor mount out, and yeah, I'd say it was definitely time to swap this out. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so here's the stock motor mount. It is very obviously old, it's very compressed, and there's it lined up next to a Condor Speed Shot, and you can see there is a significant height difference between the two. So what that tells me is that, yeah, motor mount was well overdue for being changed. Luckily, I have these sitting around. You know, whether you like poly motor mounts, solid motor mounts, one way or another, it's a lot of preference, but I'm gonna use what I got sitting around. And if I have to end up swapping them out again, so be it. But since I have them, might as well do them and get the engine positioned in the bay where it should be. Oh my God, this took long enough. But I just about got this bad baby. Oh my God, thank God. It's out. Finally got this stupid thing out. There's one. Also, BMW engineers, what the hell is this? This is bullshit, guys. Come on. Why? All right, so now that we get the first one out, the second one should slide out easier once we get all the hardware off. So I'm gonna jump to that, and hopefully that one goes a little bit smoother than the last one. Dude, honestly, the back bolts that are in the very back, that shit's insanely, and it is a crazy pain in the ass for the shields in there. Let's get the shit out of here. I'm so tired of wrenching on these bolts, dude. All right, time to cut the super long bungs for the headers so we can get the O2s into the exhaust stream, and then I'll get them up there started, and then I'm gonna wrap up for the night, and we'll finish the engine mounts tomorrow, because holy shit, I'm tired. All right, well, we got the bunks cut down. Do as I say and not as I do. Don't cut metal with a flap disc wearing Crocs. It's probably not the safest thing, but what are you gonna do? Now I'm just gonna take a break for a little bit. I got the O2 sensors set up, but we're gonna have dinner. And then we'll get back to getting the headers on either later tonight or tomorrow morning, so. All right, well, we're back in the garage after eating. Say hi.
Hi.
Baby's asleep, so we're gonna get cracking on getting these headers in the car. We're not gonna be able to finish it and start it tonight because, well, I found a broken vacuum line, so that's not good. And then the header kit didn't come with bolts, and I didn't really think about bolts to connect them to the exhaust. So we'll figure that out tomorrow. It's perfectly fine. We'll just keep the video going tomorrow. But let's get the headers into the car and at least the threads started and all that stuff, so that way we don't have to worry about it tomorrow. All right, well, I stopped filming because, well, quite frankly, there was a lot of bolts to do. We got the headers in. That being said, missing a couple bolts to attach the headers to the exhaust, so the rest is gonna have to wait till tomorrow, which is perfectly fine. We got errands to run anyways, so I gotta go get some of those, and then we're also gonna finish up the other motor mount as well. But until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, back in the garage. It's a beautiful day here in Arizona, and it's only like 60 degrees. So right now, I'm going to knock out the driver's side motor mount, and luckily Rick has some extra spare header bolts or studs that he said I could take because he just replaced all of his, just so I can fill in some of the extra spots. Didn't really know this, but E46s OEM don't use all of the stud holes on the head. So I just want to fill it in just in case through heat, if the header flange warps, that'd obviously be bad for sealing. So we're gonna hold off on that until I can get the motor mount finished up, and then we'll take the engine support bar back to Rick's because he's letting me borrow it. So let's knock that out really quick. Is that a really long socket extension, or are you just happy to see me? Much as I love working under here, I really don't like doing motor mounts. Especially the OEM ones. They're very bulky and a pain in the ass. Got it. All right, well, now we got both motor mounts in. I'm gonna lower the motor down onto them so it's just resting on them, so I can do the top bolts and the bottom bolts and make sure they're all snug. And then we get to take the engine support bar off the engine finally. And then it should give me a lot more room to be a little more comfortable because I have to deleting this old SAP vacuum line and capping it off at the back of the intake manifold, and then just rerouting O2 sensor cables. And I do gotta fix my fuel pressure regulator reference port on the back of the fuel rail because I discovered that it was very old, dry rotted and cracked, and that obviously is not a good issue to have. So let's go ahead and drop the motor down onto the mounts get that wrapped up, and then we are that much closer to being done. We're gonna go ahead and bolt the headers to the exhaust, finish tightening up a couple of the bolts on the headers, and then we should be able to get at least a first start on it and see what it sounds like.
I'm still tightening this and I'm not having a fun time anymore.
All right. I don't think I've ever been more happy to be done turning bolts than right now in my life, but we got them in. Yay! So I'm gonna go ahead and move everything off of the car. I still need to put the triangle brace back on underneath, but at this point, I'm exhausted. I'm tired of turning wrenches, and while I am gonna finish doing that before I wrap up out here and put the rest of the car back together, I wanna hear this thing turn on. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna turn her on. So right now I'll do the pre-catless headers and then side by side with the catless headers so you guys can see the difference. Okay, well, I mean, it's not super duper rowdy, but I do have the 2 stock silencers in the exhaust still, but it sounds so much better. I'm gonna go ahead and throw everything back together in the engine bay, and I might take it just down the street and back just so I can hear it, what it sounds like driving, because that was the big thing. It's not so much for power opening her up or anything like that. It's more so I can hear what my car is doing while I'm sliding it, because otherwise before I just couldn't hear anything from the engine bay over the tires. So I'm not gonna film me putting everything back together because it's just the same as pulling it all apart just backwards, and there's plenty of tutorials to do that. So I'm gonna get it together and then we'll see where we go from there.
Just to show you guys what it sounds like now compared to before.
All right, so as you guys can see, I can hear what the engine's doing now. The problem is now, it seems like I have a little bit of a limp mode issue. My revs are only able to get up to like 5,400, 5,500, and then it just wants to cut. So not exactly sure what's going on there. I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting and diagnostics, but headers are in, they look good. I have a couple like bits and pieces that I need to do before this next weekend's event. Like I have some rack limiters that Rick brought over and dropped by just to protect me from hitting frame rail with my tires, my fronts. But yeah, now it's gonna be this week just troubleshooting limp mode and figuring out why I'm in it. But that being said, headers are done, they're in, car sounds good, I can hear it, that was the whole point. Thank you guys all for tuning in to this week's video. I know it was a little bit spotty as far as filming is concerned, but man, getting up there and doing all the nuts for the headers is not the most fun project in the world. That being said, this next weekend we do have an event. We're going to Spooky Drift out at Musselman Honda Circuit. It'll be my first time driving out there. It should be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And until I see you guys on the next one, like, comment, subscribe, and stay easy. Peace.